Likkutei Torah, Parshas Balak, page 140, a little bit past midway in the first column. Okay, now the Rebbe is discussing the two levels of Yaakov and Yisrael, and he asked the question, L'chaira, Eved means you're serving somebody, or tikkun, like he said, ma'abed means to fix, that it makes it usable. How's that shaykh that we say by Hashem, we are Eved, serving Hashem as a Eved, that we say that Hashem Kaviyach is lacking something that we need to fulfill that need, or that we're making it better. So now the Rebbe explaining that no, there's a dir of a tarteinim, and from our perspective it's a tarteinim, and therefore it's not, it's because Hashem made a reality of our perspectives, so therefore Hashem created a need that He wanted, that we created dir of a tarteinim. That's what we're up to now. Achim calls that like 20 lines in the end of the page, a little bit past midway. Achim calls that, l'zayim calls that, l'zay, so your kavanah bevadai. He granted that this is the kavanah. But but how do we accomplish this feat, so to speak, of creating dir b'tachtenim, which Hashem wanted, meaning when we do it, we create accomplishment for Hashem. He said, it's only by breaking evil and transforming evil to Kedusha. Like a physical king sharates and lasei dira no. Okay, if you want to create a beautiful home for a king, so what do you need to do? First you have to clean out the palace that there's no garbage in it. Then, in other words, he says like this, why is the avodah of a Jew breaking evil and then transforming evil? So he says, or to quote David HaMelech, Sur Meirah v'asei teif. First you need Sur Meirah, and then you need asei teif. So he says, you want to create a beautiful palace for the king, you have to take out first all the garbage. Sur Meirah. First you have to get rid of all the garbage. Then asei teif, then you could bring in the new kelim. Or if somebody wants to get dressed up, they're full of mud, and they want to get dressed up to go to a wedding, first you have to take a shower, you have to get rid of all the dirt, and then you can put on the clean clothes. You can't just put on clean clothing on dirt.
But the cleaning could take 1 second.
Yeah.
If you're a cat.
In fact, it's an interesting thing that's brought down in Sfarim, that let's say a chicken is roaming in the sand, so it's full of kernels of sand. So if you want to clean the sand, it'll take you hours to take out every single kernel. But when the chicken wants to get clean, it does a whip. And then in a second it's clean. In other words, the only one that could really do it quick and easy is the person himself. Nobody else could do it for you. You got to do it yourself.
Sometimes aceto gets rid of Surah.
Huh?
Sometimes aceto.
Sometimes asei teif, when there's a lot of darkness, then you just bring in a lot of light, and then you don't have to take rid of the darkness. It gets rid of the darkness by itself. But the normal avodah is lower tshuva than higher tshuva, right? The normal avodah is first Sur Meirah, and then you have asei teif. The difference between Musar and Chassidus is Musar emphasis, both are right. David HaMelech says, Sur Meirah, asei teif. You have to do both. But Musar, the emphasis is on the Sur Meirah. And Chassidus is the emphasis on the asei teif, but you really need both. And it says the same thing as Avodah Sa'adim. What does it mean? Shem put Adam Rishon into Gan Eden, but the pasuk says what? La'avda u'l'shamra. Oh, by the way, there's a lady here collecting. There's a lady collecting for a sick child, a grandchild. So those who want to help her out, okay. And Chazal say, what does la'avda u'l'shamra mean? La'avda is ura machmitz sasei. La'avda is to do things. L'shamra, to guard it, meaning guarding it means that no evil comes in. That's shasa loy sasa. I know, loy sasa. What's the purpose of positive mitzvahs and negative mitzvahs? The purpose of negative mitzvahs is levayir hara, to get rid of the evil. Biyar Torah mikibech. Shaloi yashum lichlach v'tinach hasesholim. That there shouldn't be any negativity, any garbage. Mitzvahs say, and derech Moshe tekem v'sideh kelim noy. In other words, why did Hashem set up the world in a way that there's mitzvahs lei sasa and mitzvahs say? Why did Hashem set the world up in that way? So the Rebbe is explaining that first you got to have lei sasa. The purpose of lei sasa is to make sure there's no evil. Because again, if there's evil, how can you bring light in? So first you need to get rid of lei sasa, means don't do all the evil stuff. Then you have to, but you need both. And he says, "V'mitzvahs say emaderech Moshe, tekem v'seder kelim noim." Organizing these beautiful kelim, shaydei zayeh adir Yosef. Showing in Gili v'amshach eintal baruch u'lemata, that there should be this revelation of godliness down here. Ula'asid lavei v'atam shach b'helim. He says like this. So what's dir v'tachtein? Bottom line, we have to bring a lukus down here. That's what Hashem wanted us to do, and that's the eved, because kaviyach, we're accomplishing something that Hashem didn't have before, right? Because He wants it this way. But in order to make a dir v'tachtein, it's the mashal of a melech. You have to get rid of the garbage, then you bring in the good stuff. It's the same thing you need l'shamra, and you need la'avda. You need sumer, avasik tev. He says, then we create the dir v'tachtein. So the Rebbe says in the parentheses, we bring it down la'asid lavi. Ba'atam shacha b'helim. Now we're revealing it, we're accomplishing it now. But it's not revealed yet. It's in the bank, it's a trust fund. It's not accessible yet. That's why Aveda is called Eved Tikkun. Shaydei Aveda Seinu. Anu Mamshichim Shiagili Lamato. Should be this revelation down here. Shanu Misak and Tikkun Zeh. That we accomplish this thing. Aidei Aveda Seinu through our Aveda. Okay, now skip. Okay, skip until 3 lines in the end of the page. That's why the 248 positive mitzvahs are called Evadim de Malka, are limbs of the king. We know the Zohar says that the 248 positive mitzvahs are the 248 limbs of the king. What's the purpose of a limb? The purpose of a limb is the keli for the power of the neshama. So positive mitzvahs are the vessels for X amount of revelations from godliness. Like we explained many times, why did Hashem give us 248 mitzvahs? Why not 25, 28, 39, 20? What's the chedj in 248 positive mitzvahs? And the same thing, there's 248 limbs. Why did Hashem make 248 limbs in the body? He could have made 28 limbs, 20, 30 limbs, 40 limbs. Because again, everything Gashmis comes from Ruchnias. Why are there 248 limbs, 248 mitzvahs? Because there's 248 different revelations of godliness in the world that needs to be revealed in the world, and this is done by each limb, just like each limb uniquely brings down that particular power of the nefesh in it, not another limb. And each one of the limbs has a unique purpose that no other limb in the body has. Why is it like that? Because in Kedusha, there's 248 limbs of Hashem, meaning there's 248 revelations of godliness in the world, and each particular mitzvah reveals that particular revelation. And therefore, the fact that today we don't have a lot of those mitzvahs, because they're to do with Beis HaMikdash and Kabbanis and Eretz Yisrael, a lot of things. Because right now, those Hamshachas are not relevant. Because there's 248 different ways that He wants. Huh?
He could have done anything
He could have done whatever he wanted. But Hashem said, because there are different 248 different revelations that I want revealed in the world, so that's why I do it that way.
But does women also have the same amount count?
No, they have Reshon Beis, 252.
So how is that related to the...
Because mitzvahs have to, that's why even women repeat Hashem Elokechem Emes to make it 248. So Menchus Allah said, because that's in Ruchnius, there's that level. Okay, so he says in Beis, Vinei Aveda Shebelev Zu Tfilah, davening is the Aveda of the heart. Vid Rabbanim, which is rabbinic, Ve'enim Minyan HaMitzvahs Deraisa. Like it's called in the Gemara is Mashma. It's a big argument if davening has been Atayrim in the Rabbanim, whatever. V'tzarech lahavin, he says, l'chayra, if it's only rabbinic, davening, Dali's Razal b'Mishnah Gemara Perek Beis de Brachas. Okay, derech miru harbe Yosef b'kavanas atfila. That you're supposed to be more machmir in the kavan of tefillah, afilu mechavanas krishma, even more than the kavanah of Shema, which is the first of the Sayag mitzvahs deraisa, mipnei shem dvarim ha'im demeruma shalayla, because there are things that davening. L'chayri says like this. The Gemara implies that davening you need more kavanah than Shema. L'chayri Shema is one of the first biblical mitzvahs, and tefillah is only midrabanan. So l'chayri, why should you have to have more kavanah by davening than by Shema? So he says, okay, I skip the brackets, it's 5 lines. So why isn't one of the mitzvahs? Here the Rebbe is going with the opinion that davening is rabbinic. Okay? For Inyan Yuvim Behegdem, Inyan will be understood like this. Kine Yudches brachas de Shmona Esrei, the 18 brachas of the original Shmona Esrei, and Kineged Chai Chulye Shel HaShedra, are corresponding with the 18 vertebrae of the spine. Shebeseich and Nimshach. I don't know what the Rosh Tevis is. I should know it, but I don't. Knedem Ezer Gemar Brachas. Ve'idad derech Moshe Ba'adam yesh b'guf ve'inim ramachi v'adim. Right? The Mishnah is, like he quotes, enumerates the 248 limbs of the person. Shleishim appears 30 in the foot, 18 is the vertebrae of the spine. Avchut hashedra atzmei. But the spine itself, in other words, like this: 18 of the 248 positive mitzvahs are the 18 vertebrae of the spine. But the spine itself is not counted. It's only the vertebrae of the spine are counted. But the spine is not one of the limbs. It's not one of the limbs. Yet, im kolzeh. Oh, I'm sorry. Chutash. Yeah, the Russian Tevis before it's chutash shedra, which means the spine. Nevertheless, even though the spine is not one of the limbs, it's the part that holds together all the limbs, that goes all the way from the head to the thighs. That's where the spine goes. And through the spine, all the powers of the mind come to all limbs. Why? The limbs are connected to the ribs. The ribs are connected to the vertebrae. Yet the spine itself is. But what holds up all the limbs? The spine. So now the Rebbe is going to say davening is not one of the mitzvahs, but it's the essence of all mitzvahs. It holds up all the mitzvahs. Now what does it do? It binds the spine, binds beginning from the head, and it goes all the way down to the feet. God forbid, if the spine, you become paralyzed because the brain is not functioning anymore in the body. So he says, "Kamei kein nimshol." So it is in Elokus. The mitzvahs in Machivan the Malka, the 248 limbs. It says, "Amid zam mitzvahs sichas kavana." Mitzvahs need kavana, right? Mitzvahs need intent. What is the intent of mitzvahs? He says that's davening. Hakavana bechinas tefillah, which is the concept of davening, which is kavana opnimis la mitzvahs, which is the essence of the mitzvah. V'ikar ha'maymed, that's the primary holding up, or mekayim, and makes exist, the Ramach mitzvahs say, like kamashal, I'll explain in a second, chut ha'shedra, like the spine that holds up all the limbs, even though it's not one of the limbs. Okay, mitzvahs need kavana. Okay, now what's kavana mean? Kavana means I'm doing this because Hashem told me to do it, and I want to connect to Hashem. That's the kavanah of a mitzvah, right? You do a mitzvah, tefillin, talis, lulav, whatever you're doing. You do a mitzvah. What's the kavanah of the mitzvah? Through this putting on tefillin, I'm connecting to Hashem, right? That is the concept of tefillah. Tefillah, we learned, is binding and connection, just like mitzvah is binding and connection. Tefillah, there's an expression in the Mishnah, teifel kli cheres. Teifel is the same word as tefillah. A teifel kli cheres means he glues a kli cheres, an earthenware vessel. It cracked and he glues it. Or Naphtali, the Shevet Naphtali is called Naphtali, Rashi says. Naphtali kim niftalti. In Vayetze Rashi says it means Loshen Chibur, binding. Tefillah is the binding of the Jew to Hashem, which is the prerequisite before doing anything else. Why are you not allowed to learn before davening? In Shulchan it says you're not allowed to learn before davening because in order to connect to Hashem properly, you have to have the concept of davening. What's davening? It says in the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah says, before davening, there's an obligation to think into shifla sa'adam v'gadla sakel. Before you go davening, there's a halachic obligation to think into the lowness of man and greatness of Hashem. And yet, this low person that we are can connect to the greatest of the greatest. That's the kavanah of tefillah. That's the kavanah by doing a mitzvah. What is the purpose of doing a mitzvah? Like the Alter Rebbe explained over here, to create this dira b'tachtainu. In other words, to feed Hashem, that Hashem stays in the world. So therefore, mitzvahs need kavanah. What is that kavanah? So it's interesting. The kavanah is not the mitzvah. The mitzvah needs kavanah, intent. The intent is not the mitzvah. The mitzvah is putting on tefillin. The intent is why I'm doing it, what I'm accomplishing it, what's the goal of it. So that's not part of the mitzvah. But it holds up the whole mitzvah. Because without it, you don't have a mitzvah. That's the concept of tefillah. What?
The kavanah elevates higher.
Tefillah, that's the concept of davening. Again, davening doesn't mean saying the words. Davening means, and therefore we learned many times, throughout Chazal, how do we know davening is a mitzvah? It says, Ula avdai b'chol levavchem. It says in Shema, right? Serve Hashem with all your heart. The Gemara says, Eiz aveda shabalev. What's the aveda of the heart? It's davening. Because davening is kavanah, right? Primarily the kavanah, which is the aveda of the heart. You never find the expression avodas haTorah. You find limud haTorah, asek haTorah, right? But you never find the expression avodas haTorah. By tefillah, throughout Chazal, now we learn how ula avdai eved. You always find the expression avodas hatefillah. Avodas hatefillah means tefillah is a concept of eved, complete connection, non-existent entity. The Eved is not an existent entity. He's the existence of the master. Okay? Like we learned, a shliach who picks up something for somebody, he picks it up and then it goes to the master, to the guy that sent you. By an Eved, when he picks it up, it's not that the Eved gets it and then the master gets it. It's the master picking it up. Eved is a concept of bittul. Avodas HaTfilah is a level of bittul. That's why when Rabbi Yochanan says in the Gemara, Halavai sheyispalol adam kol hayom kula. It should only be a guy davening a whole day. Now what does that mean? We learn many times. Haydu, fall asleep for 5 minutes, Lashem, fall asleep for Fakiru, Vishmai, Baruch, fall asleep, Sha'ama, that's not what it means. What does Rabbi Yochanan mean? A person should be on the level of connection with Hashem a whole day. And by the way, that's done through davening. It says in Chassidus, Shachris is supposed to last you to Mincha. In other words, the impression of Shachris, what Shachris accomplished of Shachris is supposed to last you to Mincha. Mincha is supposed to last you to Ma'ariv. Ma'ariv is supposed to last you to Shachris. But there's supposed to be an involvement in a way that it accomplishes something. And he says, tefillah is not a mitzvah. But tefillah is the backbone, so to speak, the chut asher, the spine of all the mitzvahs. Yeah. It's not one of the limbs, though. The vertebrae are the limbs. The spine.
Is it enough for somebody just come to the shul and sit down and not to say the word Likkutei? I'm connecting to Hashem.
It's like you're going to tell, somebody's going to tell their spouse, I love you very much, but I'm not doing anything for you. It sounds good, it ain't going to work.
But we just learned the whole concept of davening is to connect, nothing to do with word, nothing.
Without the spine, without the vertebrae, doesn't do anything either. The spine is holding up the vertebrae, but you need the vertebrae. You need the head and the foot to bring down the head to the foot. Okay? The ultimate display of love and connection is when you do things for them, not when it's convenient, when it's inconvenient, when it's hard. And the true test of a relationship is not in the big things, it's in the day-to-day chores. That's where true love is revealed. Tefillah Shmoneh Esrei.
That's what the tefillah is?
Tefillah is, yes. But in order to come to Shmoneh Esrei, you need Psukei de Zimra, Berachas Krishma. Then you come to Tefillah.
Somebody who's raising his hand and not saying Shmoneh Esrei, but he's talking to Hashem. That's not the tefillah?
No. Not Tefillah the way we're talking here. Yeah. Halachically, if somebody is, let's say, God forbid, sick, yeah, and he says, Hashem, please heal me, that's Tefillah. In fact, I told you, there's a big machlekes. Even the Tzemach Tzedek says, whoever says Tefillah b'zman hazeh is not min ha-Torah, le'ira oiris miyom, have never saw lights in their life. Okay? The Tzemach Tzedek is Shoshim Tefillah over there at the beginning, brings down the whole argument, min ha-Torah, min ha-Rabbanan. But there's a consensus. I mean, halachically, not according to Chassidus. Halachically, the consensus is like this. When a person has a need, then there's a biblical mitzvah to daven. The 3 times a day, the text that Chazal gave us, that's rabbinic.
I'm not doing that.
What? You know why she didn't daven Shmoneh Esrei? There was no Shmoneh Esrei then. She was before the first Beis HaMikdash, and the Shmoneh Esrei came at the beginning of the second Beis HaMikdash.
But that concept of tefillah like that is accepted as a tefillah. No?
Before the Chazal organized Tefillah, yeah. The Rambam Milchus Tefillah is based on the Gemara and thing, says that at the beginning, before, why did Anshe Knesset Institute fail? Why did they just let people daven their own language? Because you have a fool that doesn't know what to ask. We don't know what to ask. You could say the wrong, you can mean well, but you can be asking the wrong things. Remember I told you this story. The Rebbe once gave somebody a job. Okay, and the guy wrote into the Rebbe that, Rebbe, do me a favor, I have a heart condition, please take away the job from me. I can't do it, I have a heart condition. So in typical Rebbe style, what did the Rebbe tell him? You fool, but he didn't say it. But let's paraphrase it. You idiot. Why are you asking me to take away the job? Why don't you ask me to take away the heart condition? You have to know what to daven for.